Hello everybody, it's me Peebs, and I'm back with another art video. This one is a little sketchbook session. It was a little hard to make. I almost gave up more times than I would like to say, but that leads me into the topic for today's video. Never give up. Sometimes you hate your art, and that's okay. Sometimes it looks like garbage, and that is okay. And sometimes it makes you want to throw yourself into the burning pits of hell. And guess what? That is okay. I think this process is all very natural for artists, and it's very natural to feel this way, especially because it leads to more growth for yourself and as an artist and as an individual. Because learning to deal with these emotions is really hard, especially for something that you're super passionate about. It can be very discouraging, and it'll make you'll want to give up, and most people do, but you should not. I think you need to keep pushing through those feelings and work with them and work with new ways to re-spark your passion for art. Believe it or not, this was not my first attempt at recording this sketchbook session. I tried a page before and immediately said, no, I hate this, I'm never doing this again. I'm going to quit art, I'm going to quit YouTube, I will stop doing this. And that was a little dramatic, but that frustration was because I went into it with zero planning. And usually I'm not a big planner, especially when it comes to drawing. I kind of just will draw what I feel and what I'm thinking, but that does often lead to, I think, longer spouts of art block and frustration with my art because I'm not really planning out what I want to draw and coming up with concise ideas. I'm just kind of drawing whatever is in my brain. And that's a good exercise as well. You need to be able to translate what you're thinking of onto the paper. But if you want to come up with something that looks good and is, I guess, that has a lot of skill put into it and thought put into it, you need to plan. But the only idea I had for this session was that I wanted to draw Miku, and because that's a tradition I like to do in every sketchbook, I draw a Miku because I like to see the improvement in each one, and I draw her differently in each one. Sometimes I use paint markers, sometimes I'll use markers, sometimes I'll just draw her and not really color it, but it doesn't matter. I think it's fun to draw her, and I wanted to keep that up with this sketchbook, and I still did, but unfortunately I think that this one still was a fail, in my opinion. But again, I still did it, and that's the point I'm trying to make here. Never give up and never trash your art. I almost did, but I painted over it in white so I can still use the page later for something else, and then I moved to the sketch that I had on the left side. For this specific spread, I sketched out what I wanted to draw first, and then I recorded myself doing the line art, but again, that did not go as I planned. I used to get so frustrated when a drawing wasn't going my way. I would often tear out pages in my sketchbook and crumple them up and throw them across the room. And I had to remind myself, just because your drawings and sketches aren't Picasso quality does not mean they aren't worthwhile. You feel? Because being able to see your failures in your sketchbook not only helps you grow, but it reminds you that you always have room to improve. And you might even look back and say, oh wow, this actually isn't even that terrible. I like to use these moments as times to improve my skills by doing some studies on areas that I'm struggling with. Like sometimes I'll do anatomy studies, or I'll do studies of clothing that I usually have issues with. And I did cover this in my art block video, different ways to kind of get yourself out of art block. And while frustration and hating your art is, I think, correlated to art block, I still think that there are different ways to deal with it, even though there is a little bit of overlap as well. But anyway, after getting so fed up, I moved to a sketch that I had done on the left side of the spread, and I started doing the line art, and I still hate it, but I pushed through and went on to coloring because I thought to myself, at least I can practice my marker skills, which I did, and I do like the coloring, the hair especially. I like the layering I did, and I like my attempt at the eyes because I've been trying to do more fun eyes. even though I still think that they aren't even, but you are your worst critic. Because let's say you show something to someone who doesn't really follow art or doesn't really know much about art itself. They're not going to notice the mistakes you made. They're going to think that it's really good. And I think that that's a very humbling moment because, again, like I had just said, you are your worst critic and you're the hardest on yourself. And I even say that for things outside of art, like writing, even like your appearance. People don't notice the things that you do. And that's something to keep in mind, is not everybody will notice the flaws in your art. And while I do think it's very important to make sure you minimize flaws, because how else do you learn, I also think it's important to note that nothing is going to be perfect, and that's okay. But again, even though I personally think that this Miku portrait is ugly as sin, there's still bits about it that I like, and there's still bits about it that other people like, and I think that's a very nice feeling. But I also countered my hatred for this spread by I gave up on trying to do it on paper. Actually, I didn't even attempt to do another one on the other side where I painted over it. I went and I did a digital drawing because I was like, you know what, maybe I just need to switch mediums. And you know what, I was right. At the time of recording this voiceover, I'm not done with it yet. I've just started shading because I'm busy with work and stuff. But I think it's gonna slay, and I'm very excited about it. And I'm excited I will put the speed paint at the end of this video. So if you stick around and you're still here, you can see my really great Miku drawing. But regardless, I think that learning how to never give up, essentially, is a very, very, very important skill. And I think that it's good as an artist to keep that in mind. Another thing that adds to the feelings of despair is imposter syndrome, my worst nightmare. Constantly comparing yourself to others is not the move, my little peeblets. Your art is special and unique because it is yours, not a copy of someone else's style or even a show's style, but because it was made by you. I see people all the time talk about how they wish they could draw as well as another artist, or that they wish they had the confidence that other artists have. And I can guarantee you that those artists struggle with the exact same thoughts. I know I do. I used to constantly compare myself to artists I looked up to and wondered what was so wrong with my own art and why it wasn't getting the attention I wanted, and why it wasn't essentially why aren't people looking at my art? Why don't people like my stuff? And the issue there, my friends, is that there was nothing wrong with my art aside from the fact that I could use some more practice. The only thing that was holding me back was myself and my constant criticism of my own stuff. I am my own worst critic, and the fact that I didn't feel as good about my art and I didn't feel like people would like it as much is what made it not as appealing. Because you can tell when you don't love it. And that moment when you let go of the comparisons, it's really freeing. Because yes, your art will never look like the art of well-known artists, but because that is their own style, and your style is your own. It's unique and it's special for that very reason. Of course, obviously, you can study and practice using others' art as a reference, but copying it exactly just ain't the move. I study artists that I looked up. I study artists I look up to all the time. I study, especially, I love how fluid June's art is. I think that they've improved so much, especially with their coloring skills and their posing and their fluidity, and I want to eat it. I want to eat it up. And for a while, I essentially was jealous. I was like, oh, I want art like that. I want yummy looking art. And you know what's so crazy? Is you just do it. Make art that you like. And another artist that I look up to a lot is Kelsey Animated, whom I've mentioned before, same as June, I've mentioned them before. But I watched Kelsey Animated and I watched their sketchbook tours, and seeing their improvement was it was very inspiring. And seeing how like good their posing has become and their character design, and I take a lot of inspiration from how they write their characters and how they plan them out, and it's great. And I love being able to do that without comparing myself, because comparing yourself is terrible. Another artist is Drawing with Waffles, who recently just came back, and I'm very proud of her. I think that she's also improved a lot, and I really admired her marker skills as well as how she painted, and because of her I started really getting into my sketchbooks and kind of making them the way, not making them, but drawing in them the way that I do, because I was very inspired, and I'm inspired by a lot of these artists' journeys as well, and I've honestly been following a lot of them for a while, for quite a few years, since I was like a teenager. And it's cool because it's almost like I kind of grew up with them, because we're around the same ages. But I take inspiration, but I don't compare. And that, again, it's just comparing and copying is not the move. But art is supposed to be so freeing. It's supposed to come from your heart. And if you hate your own art, then why should others like it too? You can tell that you hate it. You just need to create, and creating in and of itself, it makes your art so much more valuable. If you can see the love behind a piece, so will others. Something else I learned that allowed me to hate my art a little less was to stop, again, as I mentioned, stop drawing for the goal of gaining followers, likes, retweets, all that stuff. And while obviously it's a very nice feeling, you need to create for, first and foremost, yourself. You are the artist. You need to make stuff you like. Let yourself love your art. You are so impressive. Not everyone can draw. Embrace your talents. Even if you are just beginning, you're still doing it, and that's really cool. Again, not a lot of people can say that they can paint or draw or animate. I can't even animate, and I'm teaching myself how to do it. It's just, you need to realize the value in your skills, and how just the fact that you're putting something down on paper is so cool. And that alone, I think, should inspire you to keep going. The love of creating and the love of the game, man. The love of the game. But I think that it's a very important thing to know is, while sometimes you might hate your art, that's okay. You just need to learn to, you need to stop that. Stop hating your art. No, it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you're dealing with stuff like imposter syndrome, art block, and things not coming out how you'd like, but you just have to push through it. And that's what I'm trying to say is, again, sometimes you'll hate your art, and that's just that. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what I can do to improve. If these videos are too long, if they're not long enough. I know I've been doing some long ones, and it's been hard to get them out, but I'm trying. I'm trying. But I appreciate you watching, and I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I hope that even if I hate my Miku, I hope you like it. And now, since you've made it to the end of the video, I can show you my digital Miku. Again, thank you. Make sure to follow my social medias. And yeah, love you all. See you in the next video. Peace.